Alright, now's my turn to get my hands on this tank and set up the filtration and lighting. This is a relatively simple process that only took a few hours. I just had to wait 8 months to do it, and that 8 months is to blame for a mistake that almost put this project on hold again. More on that later. This is my 4th seamless sump system from Custom Aquariums, and each one has been an absolute treat to install. But with this one, I wanted to do something I haven't done with any of the others. When you order the seamless sump systems, they come with hoses to run your drain lines and return lines. These hoses are great and super easy to install, but I wanted to do this one with hard pipe. My reasoning for this is pretty simple. Flexible hoses are great and get the job done, but for some reason that I'll never understand, they're a little bit noisy. Using PVC will cut down on the noise, plus it looks a little better. Yes, it adds to the cost of the whole thing, but it's really not that bad. I got all the pipe and bought a brand new set of glue and primer and spent less than $50. And when we're talking big picture with a tank as expensive as this one, $50, not a big deal. The seamless sump system might look complicated, but it's actually pretty simple. It starts with the overflows and the stealth box. This is where the water leaves your tank and starts to flow down to the sump to be filtered. It starts with the overflow fittings themselves that have a screen on them to stop some of the larger debris from going down the system. This is great if you're someone like me that likes to feed a lot of large floating pellets to a bunch of pigs in your tank. Once the water enters the overflows, it travels back to the stealth box, which fills up and then overflows into the main drain pipe or multiple drain pipes. Now this is going to be a little difficult to explain, but I'm going to do my best. I have 2 main drains for this tank, but really only use one, and this is to provide a fail-safe if something goes wrong. One of the standpipes is a little taller than the other. This is the backup drain. If something goes wrong and for some reason water isn't flowing, the stealth box will simply fill up a little more and then overflow into the backup drain. I'd much rather have it do that than overflow onto my floor. Now you might be saying, John, isn't that a waste? Wouldn't it be more efficient to use both and move twice as much water? No. In fact, it's designed to be this way. The designers at Custom Aquariums made it this way intentionally and made the drains large enough to handle the flow this tank requires and then some, so this thing will run at peak efficiency with just one drain. Once the water flows through the stealth box, it travels down to the sock tower. This has 2 large filter socks in it. One for the main drain and one for the backup drain I talked about earlier. Once the water goes through the filter socks, grabbing larger debris, it fills up the tower and overflows into the media chamber. This chamber has multiple baskets in it depending on the size system you buy, kind of like the FX6 has 3 trays where the FX4 only has 2. My sump has 5 of these baskets, which I filled with the biomedia included with the system, but you can put anything you want in there. In my other sumps, I've done it several different ways. I've filled 2 baskets with foam and the other 3 with biomedia. In another one, I put biomedia in all 5, but also included a piece of foam in each one. It's completely up to you and how you like to set things up. Now, once the water flows through these baskets, it again overflows into the main sump. This is where you'd install your pump to take water back up to the tank. You'll also want to use this cavity to install your heaters. It's better to have them in here rather than in your tank. It just looks way better, and it's one of the benefits of having a sump. A small benefit, but it's a benefit. Now you might be wondering, what's the last big tank there on the right on the end? Well, that's a reservoir, and it's more important than you think for 2 reasons. First is it adds to the overall volume, which means you have to top off the tank less, but it also serves another purpose, which is to give the extra water somewhere to go in the event of a power outage. These systems have a lot more water in them than just what you see in the tank. There's also the water in the sump, as well as the hoses and the drains. When the power cuts off and the pump's no longer pumping water back up to the tank, where does it go? Well, gravity will naturally take it back down to the sump, and if your system is completely full, there's nowhere for it to go, and your sump will overflow onto your floor. This reservoir tank gives the water somewhere to go, and it completely eliminates this threat. And trust me when I tell you, I have this reservoir in all of my sumps, and it has saved my ass quite a few times. If you're getting one of these systems, this is not where I'd cut costs. Now we get to the part of the project where it almost came to a screeching halt. After I got all the drain lines cut and installed, which wasn't fun at all because I had to crawl my big butt under the tank a bunch of times, I realized, uh-oh, I never got a pump for this thing. Seriously, can you blame me for overthinking this? I've been waiting on this for 8 months, and it just completely slipped my mind. The good news, though, is I had an easy solution to get this thing running while I waited for a new pump, and that was to rob a pump from one of the beta systems since we're not using it anymore. Yes, you heard me correctly. We're no longer using the best beta system on YouTube and have gotten completely out of the business of selling betas. Don't feel sorry for us. As crazy as it sounds, we're better off for it. Once I got the pump from the beta system, I installed it, got the system running, and called my good friend Jay Wilson from CJ, and I said, Jay, I've got a 300-gallon tank, and Lisa's going to be putting... you thought I was going to accidentally reveal what Lisa's putting in here, didn't you? Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you. You're going to have to wait till next week to find out, but I did have to tell Jay, though, and he said, don't worry about it. I got the perfect pump for that, and he sent me a CJ SDC 9.0, which is capable of pumping 2,500 gallons per hour, which is way more than I need. But I gotta be honest, SDC 9.0, that just sounds so... Anyway, I like to use the general rule of turning the tank over 4 times per hour, so I only need a pump that'll do like 1,200. This one can do twice that, and if I'm being honest, once you see what she's putting in here, you'll see why we might need these extra gallons. This is, I believe, my 5th CJ SDC pump, and I absolutely love them. You can hook them up to your Wi-Fi and access them through the Control app, which is really cool if you want to monitor things. I unfortunately can't do that because the fish house doesn't have Wi-Fi at the moment, but looks like that might be changing soon. I guess we'll see. Anyway, this pump is exactly what you expect from CJ. It's super powerful, comes with every fitting you'll need to possibly hook it up, has all the technology, and a 5-year warranty. This is why I love this brand, folks. Not because one of my good friends works there, but because they do this right. No one else in our industry is giving 5-year warranties on stuff like this. With the pump situation solved, it's time to light this thing up. In last week's video, there was a light on the tank, but it was just a temporary light so Lisa could see what she was doing with the aquascape. Now it's time to set up the real lights, and for this special tank, I didn't want to mess around. Lisa left all the equipment to me and trusts my judgment of what brands and models to get. Well, so far we've been dealing with the best of the best. The best aquarium manufacturer in custom aquariums, the best substrate manufacturer in Caribsea, and the best pump manufacturer in CJ. You think I'm gonna cheap out on lights? No way. I wanted to get her the best of the best, and in my opinion, there is no such thing as a light in the fish keeping industry that's better than Kessle. I've had plenty of Kessle lights in the past, and they've always been the most incredible lights you will ever see. I can't explain it. It's just something you have to see for yourself. Aquariums that are lit with Kessle lights just look different. Yes, there's the shimmer that everyone talks about, and that's amazing, but that's not all. The problem is I just can't put it to words what the difference is. It's hard. I'd love to say, just trust me on this one, but when you see the price tags on Kessels, you'll be like, what? John, come on. I trust you, dude, but that's a huge leap of faith. Listen, I get it. Kessels are expensive. I don't need people in the comments telling me they could buy a nice used car or take a cruise for what those lights cost. I know they're expensive. Everyone knows they're expensive. But in my opinion, there's no greater example of the saying, you get what you pay for. Yes, Cheap lights are fine. I've got tons of cheap lights on tanks in the fish room, and I sell them on my website. So trust me, I have nothing against them, but this tank is my wife's first custom tank done just for her. And the story behind the fish going in here is incredible. My wife and the fish deserve the absolute best of the best. And the best of the best is Kessle. I don't care what anybody says. These are the Kessle Tuna Sun A360Xs. They're pendant lights that are designed to be hung from the ceiling like I'm going to do, or installed on arms that are also available from Kessle. Examples of these arms would be like what we installed on my saltwater tank, and they look great. I'm a big fan of hanging lights up. It just gets them out of the way and looks pretty dramatic. For these, I used the included fitting that screws on the top and has a ring on it like you'd have on a keychain. I purchased some black chain from Lowe's and hung it from the ceiling using little black hooks. The lights actually come with brass ceiling hooks, but I chose not to use those because I just thought with the black chain it would look better with the black hooks, plus they only cost like 4 cents. I also forgot to mention that a couple of weeks ago I installed the black lattice on the wall for Lisa to attach her pothos to, and this served as a great place to hide the wires when they come down from the ceiling. The cool thing is these wires also give Lisa a place to hook the vines of the pothos to, so after some time this is going to look like a jungle just coming out at you. And before I installed these lights, Lisa put one of her huge monstera plants as well as the pothos back in the back to make it look like this aquascape is coming out of the tank. And like I said, after a while, this thing is going to look completely overrun with all the vines. It's just going to look like Jumanji. I can't wait to see it. So here we are. We've got a 4 foot by 4 foot by 30 inch, 300 gallon custom aquarium with a seamless sump in it that's also from Custom Aquariums, the Carib Sea Supernatural substrate, a CJ SDC 9.0 pump to run the sump, and 3 Tuna Sun A360X pendant lights from Kessle hung from the ceiling. All of this is supporting a tank with one of the nicest hardscapes in it I've ever seen. Life is good. But there's still one thing missing. Something that's kind of important to a project like this. The fish. Well, that's next week. And believe me when I tell you, this is something you're gonna want to see. The fish Lisa's putting in here are gonna divide the audience a bit, and we know this because of the comments on last week's video, but you know what? It doesn't matter. Once you hear the story behind it and see them in here, all of that's going to disappear and Lisa's vision will finally be a reality. So subscribe to the channel to see that. Check out our website if you want to help support the channel. We just added a bunch of new plants that we're excited about, and I think you will be too. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you on next week's video for the big reveal. See ya.